Welcome to this week's episode of This Week in Diaspora History on the Jewish Diaspora Report. Let's get started. March 28th, 1917, Tel Aviv, Ottoman Empire. The Jews of Tel Aviv and Yaffo are expelled by the Ottoman Turks. Before World War I, the Zionist leader Theodor Herzl asked then Ottoman Sultan Abdul Hamid II to acquire Palestine and fulfill the promise of returning the Jews to Zion. The Sultan declined Herzl's request, but he agreed to allow the Jews to establish settlements in the area of ancient Israel, where they would have to pay taxes to the Ottoman authorities. In November 1914, the Ottoman Empire entered World War I on the side of the Central Powers. Many people from the opposing Allied countries lived within the land, and the Turkish officials considered them to be a threat to military security. Two waves of expulsions occurred as part of the Turkish failed defense of their fading empire. In December 1914, the Turks expelled up to 6,000 Jews who resided in Yaffo. They were resettled in Alexandria, Egypt. The Ottoman Empire then issued forced draft of Jews into the army, demanding Jews to take Ottoman citizenship or get expelled from the region. By January 1917, British forces had crossed the Sinai Desert and were able to invade ancient Israel territory. The Ottoman Empire began becoming skeptical of the residents of the region, mostly the Jews, as the Ottomans disdained for them and their collaboration with the British. Over 40,000 Jews had been forcibly deported. Many would not return until after the British conquest. The homes and property of the Jews of Yaffo and Tel Aviv were kept in the possession of the Ottoman authorities. Many deportees had perished during the harsh winter from 1917 to 1918, mostly due to hunger and contagious disease due to the negligence by the Ottoman authorities. March 30th, 1492, Toledo, Spain. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella signed a decree expelling the Jews from Spain. King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabel I of Castile conquered the Nazarid Kingdom of Granada, finally freeing Spain from Muslim rule after nearly 800 years. In 1478, Ferdinand and Isabella had instituted the Inquisition, an effort by Spanish clergy to rid the country of heretics. Pogroms, individual acts of violence against Jews, and anti-Semitic laws had been a feature of the Catholic Spain for over a century before the Alhambra order, a decree calling for the expulsion of Jews, causing deaths and conversions that greatly reduced Spain's Jewish population. Jews were given until the end of July to leave the country, resulting in a hasty selling of much of their own land and possessions to Catholics at artificially low prices. Many converted in order to remain in Spain, with some continuing to practice the religion in secret, others assimilating to Catholicism. Estimations are difficult, but modern historians now believe around 40,000 Jews emigrated, with older estimates putting the number closer to several hundred thousand. Many died trying to reach safety, and in some cases it is believed that refugees paid for their passage to other countries only to be thrown overboard by Spanish captains. While the Ottoman Empire welcomed the influx of Spanish Jews, many other nations in Europe treated them as cruelly as the Spaniards. Though Portugal was a popular destination, its rulers issued a similar decree 5 years later. Communities established by Spanish Jews, known as Sephardim in Hebrew, form the foundation of the Sephardic communities that now make up a significant percentage of the Jewish population. Spain has never had a significant Jewish population since. Current estimates put the Jewish population of Spain at lower than 0.2%. Spain formally revoked the Alhambra decree only in 1968. In the early 2000s, both Spain and Portugal granted Sephardic Jews the right to citizenship from the country that once expelled their ancestors 500 years before. March 31st, 1783, Pest, Hungary. Emperor Joseph II granted the Jews the rights of residence in Pest, Hungary. The history of the Jews in Hungary dates back to at least the Kingdom of Hungary, with some records dating back to 895 CE. Joseph II, the Holy Roman Emperor from August 1765 and sole ruler of the Habsburgs' lands, showed immediately on his accession that he intended to alleviate the conditions of the Jews, communicating this intention to the Hungarian Chancellor as early as 1781. The Hungarian government issued a decree which wiped out at one stroke the decrees that had oppressed the Jews for centuries. The royally controlled free towns, except for the mining towns, were open to the Jews, who were allowed to settle at leisure throughout the country. Jews were allowed to peddle and engage in various industrial occupations and be admitted to the guilds. The Jews, in a petition dated April 22, 1783, expressed their gratitude to the emperor for his favor and reminded him of the principle that religion should not be interfered with. They asked permission to wear their beards long. The emperor granted the prayers of the petitioners. After the death of Joseph II, the royal free cities showed a very hostile attitude towards the Jews. The citizens of Pest petitioned the municipal council that the Jews should no longer be allowed to live in the city. The government interfered and the Jews were merely forbidden from engaging in peddling within the major cities. This has been another episode of This Week in Diaspora History on the Jewish Diaspora Report. Don't forget to check out other episodes and check us out online at jdr.podcast. We'll see you next time.